right, folks, let's try that again. Can you hear me now? John, can you hear me?
Now I
All
can
right,
hear you.
folks, welcome back. Hopefully, John can hear me. John, can you hear me okay down
John,
there?
can you hear me okay? Yeah, I can hear you a lot better now. You were not even talking before, but yeah, I can hear you now.
All right, great. Well, I
All
appreciate
right,
everyone
great.
watching
I
and
appreciate
listening.
everyone
We're Four Star Sports Media. You're sitting down at the conference crunch. Is where we crunch seven conferences, as we'll do tonight. We won't talk Great American Conference. We'll talk that later in the week. But this is the fastest 45 minutes of conference analysis you'll find this side of a caffeinated squirrel, John. But welcome into the show. We're Four Star Sports Media. I'll give a quick breakdown of who we are at the end. Just get going. But John, as we start, let's get into some hot topics. Does it get any hotter than what took place out at UCLA as we saw James Franklin fall to the Fighting Jerry
the fighting
Newhousers?
Jerry process. I don't really know. Other than being in LA, I thought, you saw a lot of emotions during college football this past weekend. But other than that, it was nice to see UCLA get back on the winning track. And also, just a moment that their UCLA is experiencing right now regarding, Rick Newhouse's son, for example, being the OC. The way he handled that game in general, second to none, in my opinion, which we'll get into a little bit more in a few minutes. But yeah, you saw a lot of emotions on college football over the weekend, even on the sideline for some people, which I'll name here in a minute. But yeah, pretty crazy weekend, man.
Well, I mean, it's hard for those teams to travel from east to west in the Big Ten. You know what I mean? It's very difficult. We'll get into that later on too. But John, let's go to topic number two. As we talk about SEC SmackDown, as we saw Georgia beat the brakes out of Kentucky, we saw Florida shock Texas. We saw Georgia take the bull Longhorns literally by the horns. Uh, John, is the SEC reloading? Does it have enough ammo to possibly win a national championship? I don't think there's any great team in America. I just think there's a lot of really good teams.
Yeah, I could agree to that too because I feel like this year it's up for grabs once again. There's really, anybody can beat anybody on a given Saturday. So definitely, I think there's really no. I mean, think about the SEC this year. Like you said, there's some great teams out there, but it's still gonna be. You'll find out in the next couple of weeks. Some teams as well.
Yes, we will. Yes, we will. All right, man. Let's take a jump over to the G6 as we jump in and ride the G6 for a minute, John. Navy with a 34-31 thriller over Air Force. I love these armed forces matchups. They're just a blast to watch. We saw App State hold off and now 0-6 Oregon State Beaver program with 27-23 win. Service Academy's trading punches like it's a bar fight, which was a blast to watch. I don't know if you saw their helmets and their uniform combination. Beautiful French kiss. App, very emotional season for the rest of them as obviously we lost Coach Sean Clark, a person that we here at Four Star Sports Media thoroughly enjoyed speaking with week in, week out. But John, we saw Memphis uh, dominating statement win the other night, last night, but over Tulsa. But you look at this G6. Personally, I think that South Florida still sits atop, with Memphis being kind of a 1A right there with South Florida. What's your thoughts, real quick, on the G6 before we get into some score breakdown blitz?
Yeah, I think I could say the South Florida got the edge right now because, like you brought up on Conference Crunch throughout the week and other shows in general that you've been on, South Florida's got that win at Florida, and I think that's the key game right there that South Florida has the lead over Memphis right now. I know the AP poll is different, but that's the key game that South Florida has the edge over Memphis right now, the 12 spot.
Bingo, buddy. Ding dong, bingo. Nailed that one. Shout out Bailey, by the way, with a little ding dong there. But all right, man, let's jump over and let's get into some score blitz breakdown.
I'm a man. I'm 40.
And here we go. All right, let's start off with the ACCs. We saw Miami knock off Florida State 28-22. We saw Wake Forest hold off a stingy Virginia Tech football program 30-23. We saw Boston College get a win 24-20 over Pitt. Big time win for Boston College and Bill O'Brien. Clemson, man, just spanked North Carolina. Virginia, big win over Louisville as well. John, you look around the ACC. What team or what game stood out to you this week?
Man, Syracuse getting a huge win at home over Syracuse that stood out to me for them to get back on the winning track, right? So they won the game 31-18, scored half was 24-3, and maybe SMU kind of laid out the gas just a little bit in the second half. But I know people say, well, why are you choosing Syracuse SMU? I think I'm choosing Syracuse SMU because is this the Brett Lashley that we're going to see maybe make some noise to get back in that playoff spot like they did last year? This is around this time last year. This is when they surprised people in the ACC and made that championship game and made that winning streak, man. Like, and also, Kevin Jennings had a great game and also 285 yards passing, 4 touchdowns. But the SMU Mustangs defense showed up in this game. 3 interceptions for Syracuse. And that's one reason that I think it was a huge win for the SMU Mustangs in Dallas over Syracuse.
It's a great point. I got to go to Wake Forest, man. It's a big win on the road for Wake Forest. We know how Lane Stadium is, no matter if it's daytime, nighttime, doesn't matter. That fan base really does stand out. All right, man. Let's jump over to the Big Ten real quick.
Shout out, good
We
win for
saw
Manny
Ohio
Diaz
State.
also.
Oh, hold on, go ahead.
I was going to say, shout out to Manny Diaz and the Blue Devils for traveling cross country the way they did as well for getting that huge win on the road in Cal Berkeley.
No doubt. Also, shout out Virginia. Just watching Tony Elliott just maneuver as a head coach for the first time at Virginia, really do a good job. Everything he's battled, both on and off the field, a lot of fun to watch him coach. All right, let's jump over to the Big Ten. We talked about UCLA, big win there. We saw Michigan get a win over Wisconsin. We saw Illinois get a win over Purdue. Ohio State just blasted Minnesota. When you look at the Big Ten, John, who stood out to you in Week 6?
Ohio State's defense 2 weeks in a row. They held Washington to 6 points, and a tough place to play at in Seattle last week. And now you hold Minnesota to 3 points. So shout out Ryan Day's defense, man. 42-3 over Minnesota. And could this be the year, that Ohio State beats Michigan? We'll find out. But when you hold a quarterback in Minnesota, the team for 94 passing yards and 68 rushing yards in the Big Ten, and then on top of that, your offensive line allowed 0 sacks. So Ryan Day and company 2 weeks in a row holding opponents to 9 points total the last 2 weeks is pretty impressive in my books.
I agree. Man, from 0-4 to giant killer, John. UCLA, 42-37 win. Penn State, first time since 1985 that an 0 for team has beat a top 10 team. Last time to do it was, I believe it was SMU in 85. But, John, you look at the UCLA team. We talked to Tony Bruin. Of course, Tony's big UCLA guy. We talked to Charles Arbuckle, former tight end for the Bruins as well. We've spoken with both of them. Great insight. They like the story of Jerry Neuheisel. but you got to get somebody in there who can get the job done. I get that, right? I understand that. UCLA is too proud of a program to not be successful. And let's be honest, when UCLA is good at football, when USC is good at football, when they're playing well, it's good for the game, in my opinion. John may disagree, but that's just my opinion. I think it's great for the game of football. But speaking of the game of football, John, we talk SEC next. So Georgia get a big win over Kentucky. We talked about Florida, Texas. Interesting matchup there. We saw Mississippi State just go to College Station and struggle. Diego Pavia was still running his mouth leaving the stadium as Vanderbilt lost to Alabama. Oklahoma blanks Kent State. We'll talk about Oklahoma. I want to talk about a quarterback there in a minute. But John, let's start with Georgia, Kentucky. It's a game that I really thought I would see more from the Wildcats than I did. And after a performance like that, I am beginning to question whether we are watching the beginning of the demise of Mark Stoops in Lexington.
Mhm.
They thought they packed a punch, and then Georgia said, "Hold my sweet tea," and absolutely steamrolled them on the road. 2-4 now. The Wildcats are meowing for mercy as the Bulldogs are now again East front runner. Honestly, I said preseason I thought Georgia could lose potentially 4 games. They've lost one. Potentially they could lose 3 more. SEC is a tough road. But John, when you look around the SEC, what's your thoughts? Also, I mean, what's your thoughts on the Georgia game?
We nailed it, man. I thought Kentucky would show a little bit more effort, especially running the football. Kentucky had 45 yards rushing for the game, and yeah, credit Georgia's defensive line, but I haven't seen the. I just haven't seen any energy at all the last couple of games regarding the coaching staff at Kentucky. I haven't seen the offense we're familiar with that we've seen in the past regarding Stoops. 13 points at South Carolina, 14 points at Georgia. Yes, they're tough places to play, but I'm not. When you're averaging 45 yards a game on the ground, something's going on in Lexington that we don't know about it. Maybe I'm not saying this has happened yet, but we have seen teams kind of fold on coaches this late in the season, in general regarding college football.
Oh, no doubt. No doubt. All right, man, let's jump over to the Big 12 as we
Well, let me
wrap
say
up
my team
the.
real quick, though, Wes, if you don't
Oh,
mind.
sorry, my bad. My bad. Go ahead, my bad.
You're good. The reason Alabama 30, Vanderbilt 14, they made a statement. Alabama's defense is making a statement the last 2 weeks. So credit Justin Jefferson for Alabama, too, the way he's been flying all over the football. But I know style points matter these days. And when you talk smack against opposing team before the game started at a fan, you're definitely going to get Alabama to cover the 10.5. And that's what happened with 19 seconds to go yesterday. Alabama ended up covering the 10.5. So credit Ty Simpson, man. You brought him up on previous shows as well. 340 passing yards. He's a football dog, like you brought up, and watches non-stop film, it seems, over the last couple of weeks. So credit Ty Simpson. The last 2 weeks, he's been handling a lot of pressure down in Tuscaloosa.
No doubt, man. No doubt. All right, let's jump over to the Group of 6, and we'll start with the American. What is currently the top conference of the Group of 6? I think some people would even say you could potentially put it in there with the A4, P4, whatever. Talked about Navy 34-31, absolute dogfight with Air Force. That game was so much fun to watch. By the way, we tweeted it out. We put it on social media. Navy is going to cause absolute nightmares for defensive coordinators around the country. The way that they are running that offense right now, they can throw the ball at any moment. And by the way, that Blake Horvath is throwing it effectively. 34-31 win. South Florida, big win Friday night, 54-26 over Charlotte. We saw Memphis get a dominant, convincing win, 42-17 over Tulsa. When you look around the American, John, who stood out to you this week?
Temple House, 27-21 over UTSA. Great win for them in general. They needed that win, to be honest with you. But what stood out to me was they got 2 interceptions from McCowan for the Temple defense to prevail in that one, 27-21 in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania.
There's just always been something about Temple. It has just drawn my attention. I don't know if it's the owl. I don't know what it is. The logo, maybe. Basketball wise, I love their basketball coach back in the day. But there's always been something, and that team just always seems to play with a lot of grit. They don't. They never quit, and they're a team you can't overlook. Ask UTSA. And the other thing is, you going up there is not easy. Just like going out to East Carolina. Talk about that later. We talked about Navy, man. 34-31 win over Air Force. Blake Horvath, 212 on the ground. Heidenreich, by the way, if you don't know who this cat is, you better figure it out quick, folks. Boy's legit. He'll run over you. He'll run past you. He'll catch the football. He's limble. It's a triple option tango. They will dance circles around your ass if you let them. And they'll run right past you and just chunk it. They grounded the Falcons. Midshipmen now 5-0. And could be most importantly, they're one win away from a Commander's Chief Trophy for the midshipmen.
And credit Navy's offensive line, too, Wes. 0 sacks for Air Force. I know they don't pass the ball enough, but still.
Great point. Great point. All right, man. Let's jump over to. Let's go to the Sun Belt. 27-23 win, App State. James Madison 38-14 win over Georgia State. Old Dominion, don't sleep on this football team, folks. They won 47-7 over Coastal. Arkansas State, John. Now, I apologize. I did not upload that video, by the way. But Arkansas State. Some apps had Arkansas State losing the game, as John learned the hard way. But, John, let's start with your team. Is it the ruckus that took place following Arkansas State, Texas State?
Well, I'll bring it up briefly because the way that the game ended, where Texas State ended up scoring a touchdown, they missed the extra point, so they're up 30-24 under a minute to go. And with Jones, he pretty much does hurry up offense down the field and scores a game-winning touchdown with pretty much no time left on clock, only 7 seconds to go in the game. That one where they had a rushing play for 4 yards out to win the ball game. But I credit Arkansas State. It was a shootout in that fourth quarter, man. 21-20 in that fourth quarter where Arkansas State shut them out. Yeah, a little bit of controversy after the game where Texas State looks like some of their players got a little bit messy with the Arkansas State players a little bit. But credit Bush Jones for getting the second win on the year. I think if he would have lost this game, the seat might have got a little bit warmer. But around this time, this is when they made a bowl prediction or a bowl um, became eligible after winning so many games in a row. Maybe they'll turn around this year. But I'm concerned about. I talked about this with you on the phone this morning. I'm concerned about Major Applewhite's future at South Alabama. 41-34 in a rivalry game against Troy, where maybe Troy found their quarterback. I guess 31-24 over South Alabama. I was concerned about these coaches in this conference and their future and where they're at. I know they've been only there on their job is 2 3 years, but I don't really have a game that stood out. I'm concerned about these coaches going forward in this conference on how long they might stay at their current position. I just want to bring that up for the Sun Belt.
I see that. I mean, we talked about that a little bit on yesterday. It's just are we seeing a trend of coaches being let go early? I would I would say that trend is yes. John, when you look throughout all these conferences, who is out of all of them? What team stands out as a wild card that you can't sleep on?
So if we're predicting maybe like a wild card that if the playoffs started today, like who would make some noise?
Bingo.
I still have to go with South Florida, Memphis, or UNLV. Those three. I know people say, well, they can still get, they're still going to get the 12 seed, regardless, whatnot. But just the way these offenses are shining, heck, UNLV had to do it in some crazy conditions yesterday, where it felt like the temperature dropped 25 degrees right before kickoff. Right, you saw rain with a hailstorm on the field, then you saw snow on the field, then you saw a rainbow and then sky, double rainbow in the sky. So credit Dan Mullen and UNLV. I think right now, as a 12 seed, those would be my three. But right now, the way I know Tennessee can just find their running game. Like I know they struggled against Mississippi State. If they can just find their running game going forward, I think they could be a very well dark horse and maybe surprise some people as that 11 or 10 seed. Maybe playing like at a Indiana or somebody like that because they have the running tools to beat somebody like a Big Ten school, like Indiana, in my opinion. They did.
It's a good point. It's a good point. All right, man, let's jump over to Hyper Hope. So, John, give me a team that right now you believe the hype, and then give me a team that you believe maybe have on a national level may have hype, but you think it's just hope.
A team that needs a lot of hope is probably Wisconsin Badgers, who have the record of 2-3 on the year. Um, what is going on in Madison, Wisconsin regarding Luke Fickle? That's one reason I want to bring him up. But he signed that contract extension the last couple of years with Cincinnati till like what 2030 it feels like. But you're only scoring 10 points against a Maryland team. You're only scoring 10 points against a Michigan team at Michigan. Now you got a dark 3 games where your basically job could be on the line. Iowa, Ohio State, and at Oregon, the next 3 ball games for the Wisconsin Badgers. So if you're a Big Ten fan and you're a Wisconsin fan, you better hope and pray somehow you can get at least 2 wins out of that if you want to be bowl eligible this year. But the hype that I'm believing in right now was to and SEC is still going to be up for grabs. I feel like, but just the way right now that Alabama's playing football, Ty Simpson and they're running the football pretty well, and then their defense is flying around and tackling. I gotta give a lot of hype right now regarding the Alabama Crimson Tide. I know a lot of people might criticize me with being a Georgia guy too, but the way they've been dominant the last two ball games on the defense side of football, you gotta have a lot of hype around that Alabama football program right now.
I can see that. I can see that. I mean,
Who you got?
I got to go back to my hype from Thursday or from Saturday morning. Miami. Do I like the way that Florida State kind of lingered in that game? They hung around, got made it kind of close at the end. Got to get it onside, all that. No, but I do like how that football team's playing right now. I mean, I do like how they seem to play together for Mario Cristobal, and Mario Cristobal, the coach that just has a track record of really just screwing things up. He's got the game management skills of Les Miles. By the way, folks, that's not good. And then my hope is going to sound crazy because they just beat Texas, but it's Florida. And I say that because if you're Billy Napier, you got to hope you keep winning. I don't know how he turns into Nick Saban or the NFL version of Bill Belichick whenever his butt's on the line, but somehow he does. And then the other hope, I have kind of an honorable mention. The other hope is this. I hope this Bill Belichick experience ends quickly in Chapel Hill.
Yeah.
Sorry, not Bill Hill. Because this is a joke. If I'm someone of importance on that campus, I'm going to the boosters who strangleholded that university and telling them we want this fixed. And by the way, we're not going. You're doing everything. You're paying the money. You're paying him. We're not hiring his son. We're cleaning house of the Bill Belichick era, or not even. I wouldn't even call it an era. It was a Bill Belichick date. And what are the odds that his girlfriend's 25 years old? She taught him about Tinder, and that's what he's doing to North Carolina right now. Bill Belichick's on a freaking Tinder date with North Carolina. It's not going to last. Some do. That's not going to.
To your point regarding North Carolina, they're just not running the football great at all. 63 yards rushing against UCF, 89 rushing yards against Clemson, and 57 yards rushing against Clemson. I'm sorry. But you have seen teams run pretty well against Clemson. But from the get go yesterday, he brought up, man, yesterday was ugly and it was ugly fast. 28-3 after the first quarter against a Clemson team that's been up and down all season long. And you're hosting Clemson also. That's my problem. You get fans leaving after the first quarter because they've already seen enough. Clemson scored on the first play of the football game on that halfback pass, and I'm like, it's gonna be ugly and it's gonna be ugly quick. And I also think the quarterback play is not up to the hype at all this year as well regarding North Carolina.
Well, it's all the way across the board, man. It's just ugly. Nothing looks good. Nothing from the optics of the head coach to the girlfriend to the staff that he brought in to the. If you go and look at their salaries, it just completely blows this thing out of the water. When you have a general manager making over 1 point something million dollars a year, what are we doing? But to call yourself the 33rd NFL team is an absolute joke. And if I'm any player across the country, there's no way I would want to go play for that program. Yes, you could say you play for Bill Belichick, but do you want to say you play for this Bill Belichick? because this one is ruining a hell of a career in the NFL. Ball deflate gate or not. But I hate to tell Tar Heel fans, and we saw Sharky walking off. It's going to happen a lot more. And poor Ludacris. Boy had to get up at 9 o'clock in the morning and do a damn concert. He straight up says, earliest I've ever done a concert in my entire career. By the way, they paid him, I think, $350,000. I think that's what the number I saw was $350,000 to come do that concert. Preseason now. Once they hired old Billy Boy, they brought him in. Big game against Clemson. And that was the end result. It's bad, man. It's bad. All right, John.
I got a question
Let's
coaches right now, real
go
quick.
ahead.
James Franklin is right now 3-2. We like you brought up the UCLA game already. Let's say James Franklin loses 5 games this year. Do you think the boosters are going to be like, all right, James, we gave you so many years in a row to win the big game. You're 2 and whatever now against the top 10 in the Big Ten or the top 10 overall, you know? Because think about it, man. You can still lose the game against Iowa at Iowa on the 18th next weekend. And then you got a bye week, and then you play at Ohio State. You can very well lose that one. Yeah, that Indiana game very well could go either way because the game's in College Station, Pennsylvania. But East Lansing, Michigan State has always had that game every year where they can surprise some people. And then you play Nebraska at home, and then you end the season at Rutgers. So let's just say James Franklin loses 5 games this year and makes the Outback Bowl appearance, when there's been high hopes all season long that they could go back to the playoff because they could compete with the Oregons and Ohio States and all of them. Could you see a possible coaching change in Happy Valley, or do you think they'll just say give him one more year?
I think I don't think James would go anywhere. And I don't think the boosters would make him go anywhere. I mean, you went to you were one game away from a national championship appearance last year. You beat Notre Dame, you're in. Yes, he can't quote unquote win the big one. But go look at Nick Saban's record before he got to Alabama. Go look at when he was at Michigan State and he left there to go to LSU. Look at his record. Wasn't great. I think that in today's day and age, and we're going to talk about it as we end the show, but I think in today's day and age of college athletics, you've got to understand that expectations have to be turned down in a lot of situations. I understand it's Penn State. I get that. But there's parity now. And Indiana is proof. Vanderbilt's proof. There's other programs around the country. If you find a way to bring in a coach and a system and players and all that that can teach, that can make players better within the system, you can have immediate success. But in the game against UCLA, there was porous tackling by the Bruins. I mean, I know of explicitly one or two plays where Drew Aller looked like he was running with a chicken with his head cut off, and nobody was tackling him late in the game. They could have ended that game well before it got down to what happened at the end. But I don't see James going anywhere. I don't see them really running him off. I mean, and then if that's the case, then it won't take him long. Someone will call him. He's far too talented of a football coach to not continue to coach somewhere. Just my opinion. I've always
Yeah, $28
I
million
talked
buyout.
to him for an extensive period of time in Mobile, Alabama when we were down there for the Senior Bowl. His knowledge is immense. The way he tries to stay ahead is even more immense. What I like about the man is he makes no. If he finds an assistant coach that he likes, he goes and watches film. He goes and studies. He makes phone calls. He learns about them. He calls them. He brings them in to talk to him. He makes notes. He has a notebook that he keeps up with and he tracks coaches, ideas, schemes, plays, all that. Always going back to it. Always referring to it. That's a football coach that's staying in the game. He's keeping himself inundated and in tune with what's happening, not just in Happy Valley, but across the country. Massive mistake if you let him go, in my opinion. John, we've talked about upsets. We've talked about Jerry Neuheisel is probably the most popular name in the country right now. We're gonna put a Twitter poll out tonight. What is your biggest Week 6 shocker? And we'll give you a list of games. Pretty sure everyone watching listening tonight, you're watching the conference crunch as we recap Week 6 of college football. We've talked about hot topics. We've talked about gone through a blitz of scores, hyper hope. Now it's time to look ahead, John. What's on the DVR is what we like to call it. What's on the DVR for Week 7? As we look ahead before we get to final topic here. John, what's on your DVR when you look ahead at the schedule of college football?
Thursday night, East Carolina at Tulane. Tulane right now holds a 6.5 point um, favorite. I think it's an interesting game from a point of view regarding coaches like Don Summerall. Could John Summerall rumors going around affect the Tulane Greenway team that is currently 4-1? Friday, South Florida at North Texas. North Texas is undefeated. That's another team that's not really getting talked about. But man, it's fun to see some students get that experience getting out of school early on a Friday, afternoon, 6 hours before kickoff for that one. Saturday, Alabama, Missouri, stand out to me. Ohio State, Illinois will be another good one. I want to see how Mike Norvell and Florida State bounce back against Pittsburgh. And then, of course, Indiana at Oregon as well.
Yeah, game days at Indiana and Oregon, a lot of people may have questioned why they didn't go to the Red River shootout, Red River rivalry, whatever you want to call it. Personally, I'm glad they didn't. I think Indiana, Oregon is a much better ball game to go to. Look at the way what Curt Cignetti's been able to do with the Hoosiers. And look, folks, let's just be honest here. Indiana is typically not a football team that's going to be consistently ranked in the top 25, top 15, top 10 for that matter. That's not a shot at Indiana. That's their history, people. What Curt Cignetti's been able to do since coming over from James Madison has been incredibly impressive. Cannot be forgotten about. I think Arkansas at Tennessee. Very intriguing matchup. Bobby Petrino. Sam Pittman's let go. Bobby Petrino rides in. No pun intended. He's now the interim head coach. He comes in chopping, bringing in people, bringing in his guys. Colby Smith's now the acting offensive coordinator, even though we know that's just title. Arkansas's had a week off. Planes are being tracked here in Fayetteville, Arkansas. So I'm 6 miles from campus. Who is going to be the next Arkansas head coach? That's a question being asked here. It's a question being asked nationally. I think it's a question worth discussing. We'll do that at a later point. I think that ball game has a lot of eyes on it because Tennessee loses that game, changes a lot. Changes Arkansas season drastically. But there's ball games all over the country. You talked about the ones in the American. Don't forget Missouri State at MTSU. Ball game right there. It's gonna be a lot of fun to watch. All right, John. Let's uh let's close as we've crunched week 6. We've peaked into week 7. We've upsets that were stinging, wins that sang, and enough what ifs to fill a therapist's couch. By the way, thanks for coming on, man. I appreciate you coming on and crunching some college athletics with me. As we continue this show, I always appreciate your insight, rants, raves, those kind of things. Week 7 is going to be an incredible lot of fun. Will UCLA continue a fairy tale? Will Colorado get right? And I'm not talking about just the team. I'm talking about the head coach too. John, as we close, we saw something very interesting here in Fayetteville as Arkansas and Oklahoma State had a softball scrimmage. When they did is they had a called it a 14 inning game. Each inning was a different situational happening of softball. What's your thoughts on banana ball essentially, which is what this is, because each inning has its own deal. You can score points in different ways. What's your thoughts on this being implemented during the preseason, which I like, as a way to draw fans in, keeps fans engaged? We know a lot of these scrimmages can be kind of monotonous a little bit. So, what's your thoughts on keeping fans engaged by incorporating something that's become nationally popular, and that is what is we now know as banana ball, created by Jesse Cole?
To be honest with you, looking at it today, I saw it, and I think it'd be pretty much a good. I think you'll see more sports to it. I want to see it across the board in football. I want to see it across the board in baseball, and I also want to see it in softball. Think about it. Baseball right now, you already see these teams like teams are scrimmaging teams in baseball, like SEC versus some teams, in general too. So why not see it in college baseball? I think it'd be pretty cool to see it in college baseball. Also, want to say I think the NCAA should also still let a team maybe scrimmage somebody as well instead of doing a like a. I know you want to see your blue gray games if you're a Memphis fan, whatnot. But I also say it's fun to see us. It's also going to hopefully get you more down the road regarding scheduling in general. If you want to see a team regarding a schedule like a scrimmage in college football too, down the road as well.
Yeah, I think that's the next leg to all of this is that we start seeing, instead of spring games, we start seeing actual scrimmages where, for example, Memphis will go scrimmage Arkansas, for example, one weekend during the offseason. Maybe they'll turn around and go scrimmage a Vanderbilt one weekend, almost kind of how the NFL does it, where they create a preseason schedule. Those teams generally have joint practices during that week, and then they play that weekend. I would like to see the NCAA almost, and I don't know that they'll do it because you got to work around the class schedule, you got to work around all of that. But I would like to see them implement maybe a 2 game preseason schedule for college football. Here's my reasoning behind that. These AP and all these preseason polls, excuse my language, they're complete bullshit. So let's go make every team across the country schedule, and you can schedule this. And I want this. It's a thing that needs to be scheduled either that season or the season prior, not scheduled 25 years in advance where nobody's going to give a crap about it and they'll forget about it. Current scheduling. You've already got all these commissions, right? Why not use it to create a schedule. Every team across country, whether it's G6, like a G6, like a G6, or if it's P4, whatever. But create a schedule. Let Memphis go schedule Vanderbilt 1 week. Let a couple weeks of practice go by, and then for their spring game that year, Memphis goes and schedules, Arkansas State. And then for Arkansas State's, they schedule Arkansas, for example. Okay, for Arkansas, they schedule Tulsa. Who does Tulsa schedule for theirs? Oklahoma State. Now, do these games count? No. But it allows the fans to get engaged with their teams. It allows their fans to travel, be able to get that going, make the admissions, if not free, damn near free. Create a way to incorporate, snacks, hot dogs, hamburgers, whatever. Find ways to sponsor it, get rallies or get Church's Chicken or get, commissary or get Rice Barbecue here in Fayetteville. Get whoever to come in and cater it. Hey, everybody that comes to the game, we've got these 5 different restaurants and here's a plate. Take your choice. You know what I mean? If there's no Rice Barbecue, okay, well, sorry, all we've got is this, and this. Take a plate. Have a great time with the game. But it creates a rapport with the team. It creates a rapport with the coaches. It creates a rapport with other coaches across the country, as well as teams, players, all that. But keep in mind, there's only one transfer window now. So what this does is it allows you to learn who is on your roster, because by this point in time, the window is passed. Or it's coming up. However you want to look at it. But I think it's something that the NCAA needs to look at. It's a way that you can create revenue from it. Create little catchy little names, whatever. But think about it. You get a chance to watch Texas and Oklahoma. Texas and TCU. Okay? And that's TCU's whatever. Big preseason game of the year. And then you get a chance to watch potentially that same 2 Texas and TCU meet later on down the year or whatever. That's going to, in my opinion, I think it's going to draw eyes and draw people in. It's much better of an idea than having 6 teams play at one stadium in one day. That idea is never going to work. But there is a way that you can sit down and create a scheduling committee, whatever, commission, and teams can sit down and work out schedules because coaches are talking anyway. John, what's your thoughts on that? Sorry, that was really long. I apologize. That's something that I've been thinking about for probably the last two years. What's your thoughts on that?
I mean, I agree with you, man. I would like to see a FCS team, even like UT Martin or Tennessee State or somebody like that, come to
100%.
Memphis and play. Do like you brought up. I think it'd be good. Not only, but think about it, man. The way they're recruiting right now is this day and age, where people are stealing people out of their own backyard, for example. I think it would help people recruiting also, especially when a kid is kind of torn between like a Austin P, a Memphis, a UT Martin, something like just name those 3 schools, right? So why not have a scrimmage like that, going forward because it would help your recruiting also. Think about it, man. You have coaches already flying on helicopters, private jets, you name it, across the country. Lane Kiffin was in Nashville on his bye week, this past week. So why not have coaches, especially when they already got connections across the board, like you brought up? I would love to have a scrimmage like that going forward. I mean, it helps recruiting
But
in the
then
long
what you
haul.
do is you make that scrimmage engaging for the fans. If you kick a field goal and you make it, the fan has to catch the ball. Well, if the fan throws the ball back on the field and the guy drops it, well, the field goal doesn't count. You know what I mean? Like find ways to keep the fans engaged. Find ways to do things to keep people engaged in the game. Find ways to keep it also keep it safe on your team. Keep it safe on your roster. Hey, the starters can only play X amount of plays. They can't play at all until the second half. They can't play at all until the fourth quarter. Whatever it may be, to find a way to keep fans there, keep fans involved. There's ways to do it, man. There's ways to do it where you can also incorporate recruiting into it. There's so many ways you can do it, man. Like I said, I've been thinking about it for about the past 2 seasons, and I'm actually gonna sit down here in the next month or so, probably around national championship time, and have a full show on it. It's just been sitting up here in the old noggin for about 2 years. But John, appreciate you coming on, man. As we close the show, looking forward to another interesting week of college football as we continue. We're right here at the hour mark. Appreciate everyone watching, listening. Got roughly 60 people watching. I think is what it says right now. But as always, man, keep it speedy, folks, because if you want speed, if you want more sports meet speed, come right here to Conference Crunch, where we do nothing but crunch college athletics, not just college football, folks. We'll be doing it for college basketball, baseball, and more. So stay with us right here at 4 Star Sports Media. But for all of us here at 4 Star Sports Media, John Sturdivant, myself as well, Wes Pruitt, we appreciate everyone watching and listening. And as always, stay classy, folks.
And now, back to the show on the 4 Star Sports Media Network.